Yes, here we go. So, good morning, everybody watching us on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, also listening to us in Clubhouse. Thanks for being with us so early on Wednesday morning, this beautiful midweek day. We are in Tokyo and some of us in Yokohama. So, I would like to start this time with a very quick introduction of one of our sponsors. As you already know, that is Kanacho.com. And Kanacho.com offers bilingual services to individuals who want to buy and sell real estate in Tokyo and Yokohama. The company also does property management and investment property. So to work with them, you need to contact James Howell, and you can work with them in both Japanese and English. So, and James's contact email address is james@kanachu.com. So, and we have been talking about this for a while actually, and I'm very, very happy to say that today you're going to actually meet James, and here he is with us. Good morning, James, and thank you very
Morning,
much.
my friend.
Yeah,
Good
thank you.
morning. Yeah,
Welcome.
thank you very much for having me on. And I'm just delighted, by the way. Thank you so much for being open to work with us in terms of, us helping out in terms of sponsoring. But we just, right from the very start of our journey, Japan Expert Insights has kind of been there. Actually, even from before our journey started, you had an interview with Hannah, my wife, before we came to Japan. So, or came to Japan this time. So yeah, I think it's just come full circle for us to be kind of collaborating in this way. I think it's fantastic.
Yes, it is, and I have to give the credit to Tim for connecting with Hannah first. So, Tim, thanks very much for making the
I
connection.
just bumble into good things sometimes without
Yeah.
knowing. But to that point though, I think I speak for Maya too. We look at you guys like we're so proud of you because we saw you before you even came here. We've seen how much you've grown and how well you're doing. So that makes me feel really good to say. I kind of living vicariously through you now that I'm retired. Your success is now my success. It's kind of how I look at it. So
Wow.
couldn't happen to two nicer people. So
Thank
Yes,
you so much.
thank you. Thank you so very much for really working with us. It's been a pleasure all the way through, even before
Yeah.
we started. So,
okay,
yes,
the love fest is over now. Get down to business.
Yeah.
right. Well, James, once again, we invited you here because you came to Japan just a year and a half or 2 years ago. Please
Mhm.
correct me if I am mistaken. But because it is the time when I believe a lot of foreigners are thinking about moving to Japan, coming here to
Mhm.
work or to study, and because your journey probably will resonate with a lot of them, and there are a lot of startup owners as well, who have come here and they are willing to do something, to start up a business and so on. And you
Mhm.
came here, and well, while studying Japanese as well, you have been
Mhm.
expanding the family business in
Mhm.
Yokohama and in Tokyo. And I think that you have a lot of insights that you can share with us. So please free to share only the ones which you feel comfortable talking about. Do
Mhm.
not talk about sharing things that are, a kind of secret, or you don't want many
That's
people
right.
to hear about. Yes, confidential and so on. But yes, I would like to give you the screen as soon as
Mhm.
possible so that you can actually talk about how maybe difficult or challenging or easy it is to work here while studying Japanese
Mhm.
time and also expanding your business. So, and of
Mhm.
course, your business is in something that many startups are not in an area that many
Mhm.
startups are not working in, or students are not familiar with. It is real estate,
Yeah.
but still,
Mhm.
business is business. And
Yeah.
when you come here, as a foreigner, there are a lot of common things that we all run into, bump into, and we would like to know the answers to.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And as always, I've been on this show before, so I really like to have a conversational back and forth. So obviously, I'll be sharing some things, but I'm definitely going to be calling on both of you for your insights. And I'm
Yeah.
actually happy at this point now because I to be frank, when I first was coming on your show, and I had only been here for sometimes like, I don't know, 3 months, I think was the first time. In my mind, I was like, I'm not a Japan expert, like whatsoever. I am still very much learning. And now I definitely still don't feel like I'm a Japan expert. However, there's definitely things that I'm learning more and more and more about in terms of navigating business here and navigating cultural differences here, and things that I maybe had heard about from both of you, but I didn't have the capacity to talk about initially. But after doing what I've been doing for the past while, things are kind of starting to show up that I think would be some interesting stuff to talk about. I'll give a really, really quick background in case people don't know the story, or Hannah and my story, which is essentially that we both met in Canada. Hannah is Japanese, and we met while we were both living in Toronto. She had been in Toronto for about 8 years at that point, or sorry, Canada for 8 years in various places, but she was living in Toronto then. We met, we got married, we moved to Vancouver and then Vancouver Island. And we were presented with an opportunity from Hannah's uncle to come and work in Japan, specifically Hannah, I should say. Initially, I wasn't necessarily part of the deal other than just coming along with Hannah, but to work in a family real estate business. And we do a number of different things. There's actually 2 companies, and we do a number of things from residential and commercial brokerage, property management, and also construction. So those are kind of the 3 main pillars of things that we do. For my first basically year in Japan, and I'm right in between the times that you were saying, I've been here for about a year and 9 months at this point. So that kind of brand new sheen is definitely wearing off. Initially, when you've been here I've only been here for 6 months, they'll cut you tons of slack. I feel like as time is going on, that sheen of, and don't get me wrong, I think I'm still
diminishing returns. The law of diminishing
returns. Yeah. I remember hearing somebody talk about that, how they're like, oh man, once you've been here for like 5 years, people are like, well, why haven't you figured out how to do this, this, and this, and this, and this? Anyway, for roughly the first year, a little bit less than that, I really just focused on learning Japanese. And my Japanese level now it's not exceptional, but I'm like lightly conversational, I would say. I'm around an N3 level. About halfway through last year, I started getting more active on LinkedIn, sharing some information from our company. And very quickly, I was finding that there was some needs that needed to be filled, people reaching out to me for help. One of the very first, I'm serious, one of the very first people who reached out to me ended up buying a house from us or with us shortly after that. So initially I was like, wow, this is going to be so easy. Like just the first person comes along, they buy a house. Yeah, and then that didn't happen again for like quite some time. Yeah, so that's been basically the journey up until now. And at this point now, what I'm doing is I'm working more deeply with the company and really thinking about what is the directions that we can go in order to expand this company that is already doing well inside of the Japanese market, which is basically the only thing it is serviced for the past 40 plus years. How can we expand into helping foreigners? So there's a few different things. I'm definitely going to talk about work stuff, like actually working at the business and what that has been like. I also want to talk, and that will include some kind of cultural stuff, about me personally, what I do in order to grow the business, because I have some, very specific things. You can probably guess what they are, because what I've been on here before, to talk about before. And then also just some other things like blending into personal life and learning Japanese, which is a huge thing for me. But it's also, the more work you do, at first when I wasn't working very much, learning Japanese was much easier, when I was just focused on learning Japanese. But now that I'm working more and, quite a lot, it's really hard to find the time and the energy to learn Japanese. So Yeah, so let's get into a few of these different things. First thing I have to say, and I've already talked about this on the podcast before, but I just want to make it really clear to people, like LinkedIn, I would not be at the place where I am now with this business without LinkedIn. LinkedIn is such a valuable place to hang out in Japan, in my opinion, especially if you are marketing to foreigners. And I've been on LinkedIn for about 10 years, but it's only in the past, I would say 2 years. And actually, I've seen success in finding leads on LinkedIn prior to this, but I've really kind of, to a degree, figured out a system for how to be authentic to myself, but also promote my business on LinkedIn. And I really want people to notice, like, there's something about Japan. I think that it's a slightly smaller pool. In Japan, it's a slightly smaller pool. In North America, there's, yes, yeah. But like in North America, there's so many people on the platform, and there's a bunch here in Japan as well. But like, I have a feeling that in Japan, if you are consistent on LinkedIn, and that is like the number one thing, the number one thing is just consistently show up on the platform, whether you're posting things, commenting things. Don't worry about people liking your posts. Don't worry about engagement necessarily. Just show up there regularly. You will build relationships with people. And for me, I didn't know anybody other than you two when I came here. And I mean, you two are literally some of the first people I think that I got to know. And yeah, LinkedIn, posting, share things. To be really crystal clear, my kind of approach to it is I do kind of two kinds of posts. I do one type of post that is basically sharing stuff about our business. And I might do it in a storytelling way. I might just do it in like a straight up promotional way, where it's just like, hey, this is what we do. This is some great results we've given to people. It's very business focused. I think if I did that all the time and only that, it wouldn't be as effective. But I also then mix that in with stuff about me and, me and Hannah, what we do, what our life is like, what our challenges are. I made a post maybe a month ago. I think the first thing I wrote in that post at the top, the kind of hook, if you will, was business goes up, Japanese goes down. And
I remember.
Just something I was, yeah. And I mean, I got a number of new, I would say leads, or just like kind of potential leads just from doing that post, because I think that people saw that, hey, this is a real person on the other side who has similar challenges struggles. And, so I think we could go into a ton of detail about LinkedIn, but if you can show both your business side, which is really important because no one is going to promote your business except for you.
Right.
You know what I mean? At the end of the day. Then again, actually, I'm saying this on a podcast where we are currently sponsoring it. So you're also promoting our business, but thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, but I really do think, though, that we should have a mindset that I have to do it. I have to promote this business, because I can't expect everybody to be going around saying, hey, have you heard about this company? You should go and talk to them. So I, promote that, but then also, share the things that are happening in your life. Share, the ups and downs, and, be authentic. And I think that is a potent recipe for having people get interested, curious about your business, and feel open to connect with you.
Yeah. It's funny because for a while there was this expression known as, the LinkedIn police, and that, somebody would post something personally, and then the LinkedIn police would jump in, some random
right.
or late, and say, this is not appropriate to LinkedIn. This is like Facebook, and that became almost a meme, LinkedIn police, right?
Totally.
I believe, and I think, especially in Japan, I got this vibe working in Japan, but I think human relationships and, the humanity of each of us is undervalued sometimes in this space. and you know, the content creating space. And I
Hmm.
think we all know it's kind of common sense. In the end, business is human to human connection,
Hmm.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I agree with everything you're saying. You know, you gotta. It's important to humanize yourself, and sometimes you can walk the line and do both. You can
Hmm.
humanize yourself, but still get your business message out, which I think you're very, very good at.
Yeah.
And you also
Thank you.
mentioned the consistency, and
Mm.
completely agree with you. But I also believe if you're consistent, but you're posting cliche, vapid, formulaic stuff,
Yeah.
it can also backfire. Like, and that
Yeah.
goes back to what you're saying about being authentic means don't be formulaic.
Hmm.
Put your voice out there the way you want want to be heard. To me, that's
Hmm.
what that means, right?
Yeah.
So, um, I agree. I think you've done a great job on LinkedIn too. Again, I don't enjoy a lot of people's posts, but I almost always stop and read yours because they're
Oh,
always
thank you.
interesting. They engage me. Yeah.
Yes,
So,
they do. They are very engaging. And I can see that with some, you really generate a lot of engagement,
you
which
do.
is
Mm.
wonderful, and which means that people can relate to what you write about and what you write there and put out there.
Mm.
So the engagement that those posts get is fascinating and it's beautiful. So I
Oh,
don't
thank
think
you.
that many people can do that actually, because of what Tim said. You know, sometimes they just post platitudes or are too distant or are too personal or anything else.
Mm.
You know, yeah,
Yeah. Well, thank you. I mean, and I appreciate that. And I just to be clear, whenever I literally post anything, I go through at least a 5 minute. I'm not someone who likes to write everything out ahead of time. Like, and I recognize some people that's the way that they do it, and I sure it would probably be better for me. I've dabbled with it, but ultimately, I sit down and write and post about things that day I want to sit down and post about,
Ahead of
um,
time.
that I just think are interesting or that I've learned recently or something like that. Uh, and I, before every post for at least 5 minutes, I'm sitting there being like, oh, I don't know, should I post this? Is this going to be, like, and I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I'm not thinking like, are people going to like it? I'm more so thinking like, am I going to look stupid by posting this? I go through, I go through those moments every time. So uh, that's just like a normal part of it, I think.
it
And
is.
if you are worried about that, I almost think that at the end of the day, that's almost better for me. And then I usually say a swear word and just, press post. Screw it, post.
Right.
Or something
And you can
stronger than
always
that.
go
Yeah.
back and delete it. Nobody said
Yeah.
you can't.
Yeah, totally. So,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I want to mention actually, Tim, because I have say, well, obviously, I think that both of your posts are also great. I mean, I always will stop and check out your posts. But there's actually you mentioning about kind of connecting authenticity and your personal side to work side. You know who's the best of that? You know who's the absolute best? And Tim, I know that you know this person because we had a little chat online about them. But it's she's a hedge fund manager, I think in Singapore, and her name is Chow Wei Yak, I believe.
Mm.
Okay. Yeah.
You know who I mean? I think
Yeah.
you know. Yeah, I can
Yeah. Yeah.
share it afterwards. I may have mixed up a part of her name. Anyway, she is so good at writing something that is like about a memory or something like that in her life. But then by the end of it, she's tied that into how this impacts or how her investment theories and strategies kind of work.
Oh, interesting.
Anyway,
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
and then I just made me think of it, Tim, because she mentioned to me that I think that she had known you or she met you on LinkedIn or something. So, um,
Right.
yeah. Okay, so two more just really quick things with LinkedIn.
Mhm.
This is one is I think very obvious that I think people should be doing. The other one is, but first I'll mention something I think a lot of people necessarily or in sales don't potentially do. I keep track of who I'm talking to on LinkedIn. So I have a database of
Mm.
people and conversations that I'm having. So and this isn't everybody, but if someone gives me an indication that they have some type of interest in real estate and or they are someone who they maybe are working in a parallel company or maybe they're a broker or something like that, and I've connected with them, I add them to a list of people and I go back to that list every once in a while to make sure that I am staying engaged with that person.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's been 2 months since I last talked to them, and I'll just send them a quick message, see how they're doing, see what they've been up to. So I understand that that's a little bit more, it's I don't know, it's a little bit more formulaic to do that. But in terms of expanding the business, I feel great doing it because I know that I'm keeping track of these relationships and I'm not going to let them just fall by the wayside. I'm not perfect at this, by the way. And this is the first time I've really been doing it. I've been doing it for probably the past 8 months or so. And it's really good, honestly. If you're expanding your business and you're meeting people, write down who it is, put it somewhere so you can go back to that list and then reach out to, Alberto and say, hey, how you doing? How's your summer been? Isn't it so hot or whatever? And just keep that relationship going.
Keep the contact warm.
Yeah, exactly.
That's logic. I don't think that's formulaic. I think that's logic.
Yeah.
Of course.
But if I'm purely on LinkedIn itself, like there's so many chats on there, I'll lose track and they'll lose track. And there's nothing wrong with any of that. So as a business person, I'm putting the onus on myself that I am going to keep those things going. Yeah. And then the second part, which I think is pretty obvious, but it's really important, is like you got to take things off LinkedIn if you can. You got to meet people. Meeting people on LinkedIn is one thing, but if you can get on a Zoom call with them or meet them in person, that's just makes it even more of a solid contact. And again, I think that's kind of networking 101, but for me personally, like something I've actually learned, I think I've had a bit of a change in my communication with people, where I used to feel very comfortable going to networking events and like being a real social butterfly. And what I find these days is that if I go to a networking event, let's say it's an hour and a half long, I will probably speak to like 3 or 4 people, and I will have longer conversations with those people. And I'm sure like the best sales guys in the world, they bounce from person to person to person.
Glad-handing.
Everybody, everything. Yeah. And that's great if you can do that. But
Me too.
I don't do that. And it's just, I've naturally found, I'll go there and I'll end up chatting with somebody for 30 minutes. And then I'll, chat with someone else for 30 minutes, and it's over. I've met 3 people. And so, I mean, for me, meeting, getting off LinkedIn, meeting people one-on-one or in smaller groups, I love that. I mean, and that has been instrumental, again, getting referrals, getting to know people in a way that works for me, has been really, really good. Yeah.
I think Maya's tired of hearing me say exactly what you just said. Like, I'm always telling Maya, I don't want to go to events. If there's more than 5 people, I can't deal with it. I keep it down to like 5, and then we can talk, conversation. I'm just like you. But I also know the glad-handing sales guys who can charm everybody, and I'm just not one way, right?
No, but I also think that there is something, there are a few things here about what James said, because first of all, we all communicate in different ways, right? Yeah. And James, as you said, we are comfortable with different styles of communication. And when I say different styles, it is either, the butterfly style, social butterfly style, or it is, the longer and deeper dive into getting to know a person. And naturally, I think that basically the second type is more sustainable, because judging by my personal experiences, I also go to networking events, and sometimes I meet, let's say, 10 people per night, and we exchange business cards, and we exchange a few words, and then, it's just that. And sometimes we don't meet again, which is also strange, because that time seems to have been lost, right? If we don't meet again. But then when I spend, just like you, times maybe 20, 25 minutes of talking with just one person, and then we connect on LinkedIn from there, and then we meet at the same, probably, or similar event a month or 2 down the road, then that relationship gets a little bit stronger. So, and I think that this is what I mean by sustainability. So you create sustainable relationships, and not all of them, naturally, not all of them will turn into leads, but you still expect your network in a very meaningful way. And I would say this is a more meaningful way than actually, jumping from one person to another and talking with each one of them just for 5 minutes.
And Maya
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
have stumbled onto a brilliant way without trying. It was just
Right.
dumb luck to network with people. And the way
mm,
is we
Yeah.
invite them on this podcast and talk to them for
Yes.
an hour. And we get to know
that's
them. And
great.
we talk before this. And we say, come back again. I mean, that's how we're
Yeah,
networking.
totally.
Nowadays.
And we didn't intend it to be that way. It just evolved into that direction.
Mhm.
So you're one of
Yeah.
them.
Well, I mean, that's great. I think it'd be really cool to do some of this. I've been like thinking in my mind about maybe doing something in the same vein. So, because I think that's a brilliant idea. So I just dropped my pen. Um, so okay, so that's on the LinkedIn side. That's just been very instrumental. I highly, highly recommend if people aren't doing that, make sure that you're getting on there. And if anyone wants any help with that, I'm not trying to pitch anything. I don't, work in this field, but I'd be more than happy. Reach out to me if you have any questions about it or want some ideas. There are some people every once in a while who I have conversations with who I'm lightly working with, not in a actual, consulting capacity, but just people who I've gotten to know, and I learn things from them, they learn things from me, and we are both trying to, grow our businesses and using LinkedIn as one of the biggest tools. So please feel free. People want to connect with me and have a chat about that. So part of that as well, I will actually, before I go on, I just have some notes here. You also, I spend time going through LinkedIn and finding people that I want to meet, by the way.
That's good.
And don't be afraid to reach out to those people. The worst that can happen is they say no. And people say no to me fairly often, but people also say yes to me. And I've been able to have conversations with people that were punching way above my belt, in my opinion, people who are like veterans of this space that I'm in, where I'm this like mere newt who's just, kind of still learning a lot of things. But, go for it. Like try and get conversations with people that are above that level that you're at. You can do it on LinkedIn. And for every no you get, you might get someone who says yes. It's also just a great sales skill to build. So keep going outbound to people. I highly recommend doing that. Okay, let's talk about some cultural things, because I think that it's really fascinating. And here.
Did we want to, hey, James, before we do that, I thought it might be
Yeah.
a good time to break for a commercial because we have this very important sponsor.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
So please forgive us for interrupting you. And right, but I do want to say a huge thank you to House Inc. for being our other sponsor, and to Hannah, who is Hannah Urushisawa Howell, James' wife. So really, I'm very grateful for the sponsorship here, and for Hannah. I'm sorry, this is so strange. For Hannah being, yes, our friend as well. But what I also wanted to say is that House Inc. is a company that is also based in Yokohama, and that also provides bilingual services to both foreigners and Japanese here in Japan. And House Inc. Does custom home design and also construction and renovations, plus commercial building construction. If you have any of these projects on your mind, thinking about them, planning, and maybe wondering what you should do next, please reach out to Hannah. She's on LinkedIn. You can also reach out to James, and I'm sure that he'll be very happy to connect you with Hannah there. So, Hannah and Housing, thank you very much indeed for this sponsorship. And let's continue, James. Once again,
Yeah.
it's good.
Thank you, Maya. Yeah. And I also want to say, Maya, I mean, and I mentioned this to you recently, but we've actually had people from this show, more than, there's been multiple people who have reached out and who have, started a conversation with us about either buying a house or construction stuff. So whatever you're doing, Maya, it's working. And thank you very much. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so let's talk about cultural things because it's pretty fascinating. So I said before that we do a lot of different things. So there's two companies. There's Kanachu, which is a brokerage and a property management company. We currently manage around 4,000 units. So it's a substantial part of the business. And by managing that, I mean that if you're an owner of a building or even of a smaller apartment or something, we, for a portion of the monthly rent, which is usually between 3 and 5%, we will take care of that unit for you. We'll get it tenanted. We will, be prepared for maintenance, all that type of stuff. We manage the property. And then we buy and sell, or help people buy and sell, or companies buy and sell. Then on House side, they, as you said, they help build custom homes, commercial properties, and also do renovations. So coming in to doing this, in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, we can do all of these things. I kind of posted about this recently. We can do all of these things. Why don't we just try and advertise for like basically being able to do all of these things, which is what my approach was basically for the first year. So not necessarily having a niche. And partially getting to the cultural side of things, partially that was because I was never told not to do that.
Never told. Okay.
yeah. I was like, I was never really told that I there's an aspect of working in this company where that is a challenge, because I'm sure that you're aware of this, and I don't think it's only happening here in Japan, but people not telling you what they really think, So I might propose, a potential customer that has, this is a totally fabricated thing. I don't want to bring in anything specific, but let's say a customer who has a place in Kyoto that reaches out to me and says, we're interested in buying another place here in Kyoto. Can you help us? And initially I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, great, we're getting customers, we can do it. So go to the team, and we can actually broker deals throughout all of Japan. So they say like, yeah, okay, we can, we can do that. We'll do it. But when push comes to shove, like, they have zero interest in actually doing this. You know what I mean? Because logistically, it's just extremely challenging for them.
Gotcha.
But they don't want to say no.
Right.
Okay.
They don't want to say no to doing it. So yeah, that's just like something that has been a challenge. And part of that also is because Hannah and I, because we're part of that family group, we, they especially don't want to say no to us because we are people of, higher rank at the company.
Gotcha.
And there's definitely a good amount of kind of reading the air that I'm more and more recognizing I need to get better at and learn, being able to hear, or being able just through working through some of these deals, or just more and more learning, like, what are the things that they more so want to focus on.
Right.
And where I can then also provide the biggest impact to them and their numbers, because that's really what I want to do. I want to be a contributor to this company. I want to add more revenue to the company. I want to help people hit their numbers, and I want them to help me learn more about this stuff, because they are all so much more experienced than me, and they're extremely gracious in helping me. But yeah, that's just, I'm not sure. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I think your natural, your natural leanings are to be humble, and I think they appreciate that, and they appreciate people who want to learn. It actually makes it easier because your role is very defined now. As long as you're humble, they're like, oh, this guy's mature. He's a blank slate. We can mold him. We can help him learn. We can use our experience. Like, that earns you a lot in Japan. It's not what you know as much as your humility and your willingness to contribute, and show them that you're gonna add value. And the other thing you're referring to is the honne tatemae, okay? And like, what's the real truth? And a lot of times, this is the hand. It's got a plus and a minus. It's a double-edged sword. But if you're a foreigner, especially, I think if you're a white foreigner, it's probably even different. If you don't look Asian, they cut you slow. you break the rules, but they won't tell you because they don't want to mess with it, and they want to just, they'll let it slide. And it's nice in one way, but it's also, you fail to learn what you should learn. You know, you
Mm,
should,
Mm,
like it was an opportunity to learn that was lost, right?
mm,
And in my case, I'm not suggesting other people do this, and I know that times have changed, but I would always get the real answer drinking with them. Now, I'm not saying you should
mm,
go do that, but that's how I got it. And then by drinking with them, I got to know them.
mm,
And so I didn't even need the alcohol anymore to
mm,
get to their home, because after a while we developed that very personal relationship of trust,
mm.
right?
yeah,
And it was a
right.
process. Right? But the official word at work, I learned not to necessarily, it took me a while to take that at
Yeah,
face value,
yeah.
just my
I don't know.
habits.
Yeah, if I may add something here, it is, Tim, what you said, it was, and when I was working, for my previous employer, so it was the nomic when you got to
Mm,
know people well. But now it doesn't have to be nomic. There is also another thing that you can actually leverage, James, and it is this. It is built into the culture here. This sense of interdependence, and it also ties up to being humble, also
mm,
ask for help,
mm,
help the people who work around you and who know more than you do at the moment. And so this creates that sense of interdependence, which is very much appreciated in Japan as well, because it makes them feel that you're part of the team, and it makes you feel that you're part of the team. And then
mhm,
personally, there was another thing, because at my previous workplace, not everybody went to Nomikai, but how we bonded was basically at the in the tea room. So there was a place
mm,
where there was always tea ready, and there was coffee, a coffee machine, and everything. So people would go there and get coffee, get tea, and so on. And sometimes they would stand there while waiting for the coffee to the machine to finish it. Or just when somebody else is there, there would be exchange, of some
mhm.
languages, a few words, and it starts with talking about how hot it is or how cold it is. But
Yeah, the
gradually,
weather.
yes, the weather, of course, that's the
Yeah,
universal icebreaker.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yes, but when we did it, time and time again, eventually we started talking about this and that and work as well, and they would share their real thoughts and
Mhm,
their opinions. So the honne. So it takes longer when alcohol
mhm.
is not involved. It takes
Alcohol's a
longer.
shortcut to the home.
Yes, yes, but it's still a good
Right.
way to go around, and just get what you need.
Yeah, here's the other thing. Because it takes a while to get a feel for the culture, the corporate culture that you're
Mm,
working in. Like, there's no rules written down. There's no
mm,
Mm,
book to go to tell you all the unspoken stuff that they're following. And if there's a cheat code
mm,
in becoming successful, in my experience, is all you gotta do, you gotta figure out who is respected in the organization,
mm,
who has good contacts, good communication skills, and you have to become friends, or
mhm,
deshi, the disciple, or have some relationship with that person. If you can just relate to that one person, they can
mhm.
be your internal guide, mentor,
Yeah,
somebody who will interpret the unspoken stuff for you. You just need
yeah.
one really close ally in the
Mhm.
organization who knows what's going on. And I was lucky. That's how I learned.
Right.
Listen to them every day. Like, okay, what did this meeting mean? What did the meeting mean? Well, Tim, they really don't want your Kyoto idea. I mean, you want to
Yeah,
have a relationship where somebody feels comfortable telling you that. I'm not saying it's
yeah.
easy, but that's the cheat code if you can pull it off, in my opinion.
Right, right. That's great. That's really good to, yeah, both. Thank you both for sharing that. Um, I mean, there's just so much interesting kind of learning that's going on as we're doing this. And actually, I have to say that you mentioning that, Tim. So there is somebody at the company who I would say, from both the perspective of Hannah and me, they're first of all, they're a director at the company, but they're also like the top, basically, person who brings business into the company. And through talking with him and learning more about him and his approach to business, I'm learning more about like what is the stuff that the team really likes to work on and that they can excel working at. Because again, we can do a lot of different things. Initially, I was thinking that we could build out, a very robust residential buying and selling department. But the thing is we do that, but we're kind of in a very niche area to do that. The company doesn't think about doing that on a larger scale. We do other things on a larger scale, like property management and some commercial real estate. So I'm kind of learning more and more as time goes on what areas are in the wheelhouse of the people that we work with that they're used to doing and that they like doing. And I'm not saying that we won't do those. Like, we're working on multiple residential deals right now, but as I'm learning more and more, it's like, well, I was kind of trying to like force what I thought might be a great thing for us to expand into. And it absolutely might be. To be clear, it absolutely might be. However, it's not exactly what they are doing. It's not what they're already doing. And for that reason, it's like maybe a little bit challenging to jump that chasm. Whereas instead, if I can focus on bringing in deals that are very similar to the deals that they are more regularly doing, for example, a property management deal or maybe a commercial deal, that could buy me the stock in order to, expand out into other things. So yeah, that's just kind of I'm not sure if that goes along with what you're saying, but I'm learning a little bit more to like go with the flow a little bit more of where things are already flowing before I start to branch out to something else. And in doing that, I can see them getting more excited about, a potential deal, or seeing that, hey, oh, James and Hannah, by the way, I keep saying myself, but I would be nothing without Hannah. My goodness, Hannah she is absolutely critical to all of this. But anyway, yeah, so that's something I've kind of learned. I got to say one other thing though, which is maybe a cheat code. And this is a very special situation because of the situation that I'm in, which again is I'm part of the family that owns the business, right? Even though I'm someone who knows probably the least out of everybody at the company, and I am the most kind of new learning person. We do have some new employees, but anyway, is that I'm the only foreigner who works there. And Hannah, I'm not sure if we call this a cheat code, but Hannah will definitely use me from time to time. And I'm getting more and more comfortable doing it. She's like, you are the only one who can go in and say this right now.
Gaijin card.
Exactly.
Card.
Right. Yeah.
You need to go in and say this because she's like, I don't think I should say it, but if you say it, then it's different.
I can't tell you how many times people have said that to me. Yeah.
And it's not something I'm entirely comfortable with because, I mean, first of all, just expressing myself in that way in Japanese is obviously a challenge. But yeah, that's like another thing, because in expanding the business, there are times when perhaps they are missing something that I've learned, which again, I'm not trying to say I know more than them, but like something that I've learned just from the amount of work that I've done in either in this field or something previously that I think maybe they are missing, or there's an opportunity that we should potentially think about going for, but we're not in the eyes on it. Or it could be something completely unrelated that Hannah just like really needs me to step in and say something about something. But yeah, that's like a little cheat code for me.
One thing I was going to say though, what I like about your approach is, in a sense, because I was going to mention this, another very powerful tool is you be observant and you look around and you try to anticipate something you can do that's helpful or kind for people around you, and you proactively do it. Like that's one. It's kikubari is what the Japanese call it, and so to me that's a really good strategy, because now they do want to work with you, right? But also you can ask them, what do you guys like to do? Like, what do you, what and why, right? And here's another cheat code. Okay. When one of the things I at first wasn't good at was selling my ideas. And I realized that when I was trying to sell them my ideas, I had jumped the very important step of saying to them, here's the current situation as I understand it, and here's the data I collected, and here's why I do it. And then ask them, do I have a blind spot? Am I missing something in this understanding of the current situation? And invite them to help you define the current situation. And that becomes the consensus part of your decision, is you all agree on what the current situation is first before talking about. And what happens is he and you might decide that your idea is great, or you might come up with a better idea because now you're looking at something that you hadn't considered before, and so is he. Right? So rather than trying to sell it, sometimes you just got to go in and use a process orientation and say, here's my understanding. Please tell me where I'm missing. I don't know, just based on my experience.
I think that's fantastic. Yeah, that does make sense. I mean, and all of these things, it motivates me to keep on learning the language so that I can express these things, right? And in a way where I am getting that consensus, or I'm approaching things that isn't too forward and direct, which is definitely how I was, not intentionally, but just like the way that I was coming across. I'm sure it was. Yeah.
That's how we're wired.
A little. So that actually ties into one other thing, which I think is really important in terms of expansion, which kind of goes back to, again, like niche, and you have to go through everything. You have to go through a bunch in order to figure this out. But qualification, when you're expanding a business, and it's probably not just in Japan, but qualifying opportunities is critically important. Like being able to, and again, because I need to qualify deals before I present them to the team. And the thing is, I can't qualify a deal to the full extent, but I need to have a rundown of things that and I'm learning more and more as I go along, of like, they need to have these kind of attributes or characteristics before I'm willing to bring it over there. A really classic example of if someone's saying, yeah, I want to buy a, apartment building in, Akita, just a really simple example. It's like, well, I know that we wouldn't be the right person to help them do that.
Right.
Or the right company to help them do that. Or this ties into another aspect, which I'm very curious what your thoughts are on it. But right now there's like an Akia craze in Japan, right? And actually, I wouldn't say it's in Japan. I feel like the Akia craze is almost more so in America, and it's seeping through into Japan, of course. But there's this belief, and I'm not saying it's not true. I'm saying in some ways it is, but that Japan is just filled with a bunch of decent houses that are in okay locations that are abandoned and basically being given away for free, that you could then turn into either a holiday home or an Airbnb. There are definitely people who have done this and who have been successful. I've put it in my LinkedIn now that we don't do that. We don't do Akia. If you want to do that, go to somewhere else, because we just are not the right company to help with that.
Right.
And I will say, there's two aspects of it. One is that we the money that you can make off of selling somebody an abandoned property that costs, say, less than 10 million yen. It's really not very much, but you're still doing the same amount of work as if you were selling something that's worth 10 times that much. Right?
Yeah. No bank.
And even more so, our team is terrified of writing a contract that they would then be liable for a dilapidated building. They don't know how to write all of the important matters.
Right.
Yeah.
And they worry that, hey, if something happens at this place, we're going to be on the line as the agents. But anyway, that just ties into qualifying a little bit. But I have a lot of people who reach out to me who, in my opinion, they've been obviously told and or read about opportunities in real estate in Japan that just are simply, I mean, I think are very hard to find, especially if you're not here doing
Right.
Right.
Not in, yeah. Mm.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
there is a boom, and like in every boom, you know, most of it is imagination and good
Perceived.
intentions. Yes,
Yes.
perceived. You know, also good intentions. You know, and
Yeah.
expectations or overblown expectations, and it happens. But I also like what you said, James. That you know, you need to know your expertise, right? And you know it. So, and you know that your expertise does not lie in Akia, which is great because you have enough other business
How do
which
you
you
scale it? Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So and
But that,
because
in fairness, though, just to that point, I personally might consider buying an Akia if I,
Yeah.
if I figure it out and doing it for me.
yeah,
I wouldn't as a business. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
not. That makes sense. Go
Well,
ahead.
I
Sorry.
mean,
Sorry.
to be
mhm,
frank, Tim, in my opinion, you would be the right person to be, and I have no right to say this myself, but you'd be the right kind of person to buy an Akia because you live in Japan. You actually live in an area where you could probably pretty quickly assess the location.
mhm.
You can speak to the people in the area. You can like get a sense of
Yeah.
what's going on. You're not just like seeing something that is, okay, well, where is it? Okay, so
On
it's
the
in
internet. Yeah.
Shizuoka. It costs this much.
You need to
you
buy a
know
car to get to the station every day because no buses.
right,
Yeah. There's
right,
stuff like that.
yeah. So I mean, and again, I think that like there's opportunity in there, but it's not, in my opinion, opportunity that is easy to grab. There's no such thing as an easy opportunity. Like,
Yeah.
frankly, nothing is
Nothing's
easy
easy.
in that regard. It just doesn't exist. And I think you
Yeah.
two know that better than I. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to share this comment on LinkedIn here. Always good to see James not only surviving but thriving here in Japan. Keep up the great work. So
Wow, that's so nice. Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you very
well,
Nice.
much. Appreciate that.
yes, and we've got yes. Good morning, Hiroku-san. Thank you for joining us on LinkedIn as well. And as well, yes, we've got Timothy, who's this is really insightful and interesting. Okay, let me show this one as well here. So he enjoys listening to the podcast, and he actually enjoys listening to you, James, because I have heard that from him a couple of times. Deborah, thanks a lot for joining us this morning as well. It's a pleasure to have you all here. So,
Wow. Thank you
yes.
so much, everyone. I
You got
really
so many
appreciate
fans.
it. Well, I mean, if anyone wants to reach out and chat even one on one or something, I would love to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's I mean, it's so interesting. It's so fun, and I it's great. You know what? Actually, I'll add in one personal thing, and I've been so focused on work for a while,
mhm,
especially this year, and it kind of hit me, and it hit Hannah last month. Both of us got to a point where we were like, hold on a second here. Like, we need to make sure that we are doing things that we enjoy. Hannah and I both love rock climbing. We hadn't been climbing very much. We hadn't been doing that. And now we're making dedicated time every week to go climbing. That's also a place for me, climbing, going to the climbing gym, or even going to the golf course is like an opportunity. I play golf quite often. I'll go on my own and just join random people, but I get to speak Japanese with people. I get to meet new people and interesting
Nice.
people. And doing it in a place where it's a hobby. It's not work, you know? Uh, Another aspect is, I've cultivated a lot of business relationships, which are great.
mhm,
Like it's great to cultivate a business relationship, but I also am trying to become more intentional to create relationships that aren't business related. I
yeah,
don't necessarily want to have all of my contacts being just a business contact. I want them to also be, potentially a friend. And I just kind of had this realization last month and taken some taken some steps to work on it, to not be so focused on work. You don't need to be 100% focused on it. I don't think it's not fun to do that.
Sometimes you gotta decompress sometimes. So
Yeah.
I think, onsen is always a good way to decompress.
Ooh,
So
Especially in Atami.
you know where to
yes,
go. The onsen.
I know.
In
I know.
Atami, yes.
We went
Because,
to. Sorry. Go ahead.
oh no, I wanted to say that Atami itself is an onsen area, but they have so many ryokans there and also hotels, so you can pick, whatever you like, the style
Yeah.
and the temperatures and everything. So sorry for interrupting you,
Thank you
James.
for that plug for Atami.
Well, I mean, we love Atami. I was actually telling Tim recently, like, if you ever hear about any interesting real estate or something there, even for Hannah and I, we would love to have an opportunity to be or have a place to go to. And this is a dream. We're not necessarily expecting it to happen in the near term, but we are open to, exploring ideas. Because we love Atami. We love that. We love like the specifically salty kind of onsen water.
Yeah.
Another thing, just to mention about onsens, we went to Aomori over, what was it, Obon, and to Hachinohe, which is a smaller city, kind of, I guess, east of Aomori City. And I went to the onsen every single day, which I always do when I'm there. The onsen in Aomori is, 400 yen to go. It's just so cheap and it's amazing. They're so good.
Well, the next time we get together, we got to put a bug in Kurumi's ear, and here's why. So in the U.S., we bought 2 houses. Actually, we bought 3 houses. And the realtors hated my wife because she loved looking for houses. Our first realtor, she showed us like 50 houses. And Kurumi didn't want to pull the trigger, and she's usually very decisive. She just enjoyed real estate. And so her hobby was she was always looking at real estate online. Even not so much now, but maybe I got to get her back into it so she can start to keep an eye on it here in Atami. I know she would love the stuff you post on LinkedIn because it's all beautiful and gorgeous.
Right.
So we might be able to lure her back into that. Like she should have been she would have been a great realtor. That's what I was saying. And she's good.
I bet. I bet.
Just one thing I wanted to say, that my plug for Atami is basically an indirect plug for people going to meet you, Tim, there in person.
There you go. Well, hey, come by. I'll have a cup of coffee or lunch with you.
Yeah.
And
you're like the unofficial mayor.
Jazz, we can go listen to live jazz at least. Yeah. My favorite.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a great area. We love it there, and it's not far. I mean, it's not far from Yokohama, which is
40. It's not even 40 minutes, right? It's maybe like 30. Yeah. It's pretty quick to Yokohama. Yokohama.
Actually, I went further south. There's a property that we're selling in Futo, which is obviously south of Atami, and I took the Shinkansen for the first time. I was blown away how quick that is, because I always drive. But to go from Yokohama to Atami is, it's like 22 minutes or something like that. It's just insane.
Yeah.
How fast that is.
And from Atami to Shizuoka City, it's like 40 minutes. Like I was saying, we're closer to Tokyo. Shizuoka is really
wild.
Yeah.
So cool.
So,
I mean, before we finish up, I'll just say, please, if anyone wants to connect one-on-one, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm always happy to meet people. Wait, do we finish up at 9 or 9:30?
At 9 o'clock. Yes.
Okay, I thought so. Hannah said earlier you finish at 9:30, right? I'm like, no, I think it's 9. But,
I would love to have it, for another 30 minutes, but it's Wednesday morning and everybody's, just getting ready to go to work and so on. But yes, Hiroku-san, please do connect with James and learn from him directly. You can also talk with Hannah and so on.
Yeah.
Please, yes, that will be really nice, I believe. For
and we have a final commercial coming up, right?
We do, yes. Well, yes, once again. So thank you very much, James, for being with us today. And as you know, we have these 2 sponsors whom we love, actually, not as just as sponsors, but as friends as well. So a huge thank you to Kanachu.com, James, to you too, and to
Yeah.
House Inc. and Hannah, because without you, we would have been just running in circles and everything like this, you know. So thank you for the sponsorship, Kanachu.com, to everybody who is watching us, and James will help you with projects about buying and selling real estate in Tokyo and Yokohama, also property management and investment property. And House Inc. Does custom home design and construction, renovations, commercial building construction. But the most beautiful thing of all of this is that you can speak in the language you like. It could be Japanese, it could be English. So do not hesitate to contact either James or Hannah and learn from them, talk with them, work with them. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Great to speak with you both. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Come back
James.
again.
Yes.